The day Extra Clean Intergalactic Services opened its first Earth branch office in downtown Seattle, Dr. Elias Thornton was too busy to notice. Buried in his lab at the University of Washington, the 35-year-old astrophysicist was on the verge of a breakthrough that could revolutionize space travel. It wasn't until his colleague, Dr. Samantha Wu, burst into his lab waving a holographic flyer that he even realized anything was amiss. "Elias, have you seen this?" Samantha's excitement was palpable as she thrust the shimmering advertisement in front of his face. "Alien Maids. Can you believe it?" Elias blinked, his eyes adjusting from the microscopic world of quantum particles to the gaudy neon text floating before him. "What in the world?" he muttered, plucking the flyer from the air. "Extra Clean Intergalactic Services," he read aloud, his brow furrowing. "Bringing the galaxy's finest cleaning technology to your doorstep. Our staff of highly trained extraterrestrial professionals will leave your home sparkling like the stars themselves." He looked up at Samantha, skepticism etched across his features. "This has to be a joke, right? Some marketing stunt." Samantha shook her head, her dark ponytail swishing with the movement. "It's real, Elias. There was a press conference this morning. Apparently, they've been in talks with the government for months. It's all part of some new cultural exchange program." Elias leaned back in his chair, running a hand through his disheveled brown hair. "Aliens, as maids. It seems a bit, I don't know, demeaning." "Oh, come on," Samantha chided. "Don't be such a stick in the mud. This is exciting. A chance for everyday people to interact with beings from another world. Besides," she added with a mischievous grin, "when was the last time you cleaned your apartment?" Elias felt a flush creep up his neck. His modest one-bedroom apartment had indeed seen better days. Between his research and teaching duties, housekeeping had fallen to the bottom of his priority list. "Fine," he conceded with a sigh. "I'll look into it. But right now, I need to focus on these calculations. I'm close to something big, Sam. I can feel it." Samantha's expression softened. She knew how hard Elias had been working on his warp field theory. All right. Just don't forget to eat and sleep occasionally, okay? Alien maids or not, you still need to take care of yourself." As Samantha left, Elias turned back to his work, but found his mind wandering. Aliens here on Earth, not as conquerors or diplomats, but as service workers. The idea was almost too bizarre to contemplate. Yet, as he glanced around his cluttered lab, littered with empty coffee cups and crumpled papers, he couldn't help but think that perhaps a little extraterrestrial assistance wouldn't be such a bad thing. 2 weeks later, Elias found himself standing nervously in his living room, awaiting the arrival of his new alien maid. He'd spent the previous evening attempting to tidy up, but quickly realized the futility of the endeavor. Years of neglect had left his apartment in a state that would challenge even the most advanced alien cleaning technology. The doorbell chimed, a surprisingly ordinary sound given the extraordinary circumstances. Elias took a deep breath, straightened his shirt, and opened the door. He wasn't sure what he had been expecting, but the being standing before him defied all his preconceptions. She, at least, Elias assumed it was a she, stood about 5 feet tall, with skin that shimmered like opal, shifting through subtle hues of blue and green. Her eyes were large and almond-shaped, entirely black save for pinpricks of starlight that seemed to twinkle within their depths. A mane of what looked like fine, silvery filaments cascaded down her back, moving gently as if stirred by an unseen breeze. "Greetings, Dr. Thornton," the alien said, her voice melodious and accented with an otherworldly lilt. "I am Zora X, your assigned extra clean service professional. May I enter your domicile?" Elias realized he had been staring and quickly stepped aside. "Of course, please come in. And not just Elias is fine." Zara X glided into the apartment, her movements fluid and graceful. She carried no visible cleaning supplies, but a faint humming emanated from her body, like the sound of distant machinery. "Your habitat is most interesting, Elias," Zara X commented, her starry eyes scanning the cluttered space. "I detect numerous fascinating particulates and biological cultivations. Your species must have a high tolerance for diverse microbial ecosystems." Elias felt his face grow hot with embarrassment. I've been busy with work. My research doesn't leave much time for cleaning." Zara X turned to face him, her expression unreadable. "There is no need for explanations. It is my function to restore order to chaos. Please continue with your important work while I attend to your environment." As Zara X set about her tasks, Elias retreated to his home office, feeling a mixture of relief and unease. He tried to focus on his research, but found himself continually distracted by the soft humming and occasional flashes of light coming from the other rooms. After about an hour, curiosity got the better of him. Elias emerged from his office to find his apartment transformed. The air smelled fresh and faintly floral. Every surface gleamed, free of dust and clutter. Even the windows, which he couldn't remember ever cleaning, were crystal clear, offering a stunning view of the Seattle skyline. Zara X stood in the center of the living room, her opalescent skin glowing faintly. "I have completed the initial decontamination and organization of your habitat, Elias. Is the result satisfactory?" Elias gaped at the immaculate space. "It's incredible. How did you do all this so quickly?" "Extra clean technology is far advanced beyond current Earth capabilities," Zara X explained. "We utilize targeted energy fields to break down particulates and restructure matter at the molecular level." As she spoke, Elias noticed something odd. A small device on Zara X's wrist was pulsing with a soft blue light. The rhythm seemed familiar somehow, tickling at the edges of his memory. "That's fascinating," he said, gesturing to the device. "Is that part of your cleaning equipment?" Zara X's starry eyes flickered, and for a moment, Elias thought he saw a flash of something. Fear, anticipation, but it was gone so quickly he couldn't be sure. "It is a standard issue temporal modulator," she replied smoothly. "It allows for more efficient task completion." Elias frowned. There was something about the pulsing light, the frequency. It was maddeningly familiar. "Would you like me to explain the maintenance schedule I have devised for your habitat?" Zara X asked, smoothly changing the subject. Elias nodded absently, his mind still puzzling over the strange device. As Zara X detailed her cleaning plans, he made a mental note to look into Extra Clean's technology more closely. There was something here, some connection he wasn't seeing. As Zara X prepared to leave, Elias found himself strangely reluctant to see her go. Despite his initial reservations, there was something captivating about the alien Maid. Her efficiency was impressive, certainly, but it was more than that. There was an intelligence in her starry eyes, a hint of depths unexplored. "Same time next week?" he asked, trying to keep his tone casual. Zara X inclined her head in what Elias assumed was a nod. "I shall return to maintain your habitat as scheduled. Until then, may your days be filled with productive chaos, Elias." As the door closed behind her, Elias leaned against it, his mind whirling. He glanced around his spotless apartment, then down at his hands, still stained with ink and the residue of his work. For the first time in years, he felt a stirring of something beyond his research, a curiosity about the wider universe that had literally just walked through his door. Little did Elias know, this was only the beginning. The arrival of Zara X in his life would set in motion a chain of events that would challenge everything he thought he knew about the universe, his work, and himself. As he returned to his office, the equations on his computer screen seemed to take on new meaning, the patterns aligning in ways he had never considered before. The boundary between his world and the stars had been breached, and nothing would ever be the same again. In the weeks that followed Zara X's first visit, Dr. Elias Thornton found himself in a state of perpetual distraction. His normally laser-focused mind kept drifting from his equations to thoughts of the enigmatic alien Maid. The memory of her starry eyes and the mysterious pulsing device on her wrist haunted him, tugging at the edges of his scientific curiosity. It was during one of these distracted moments, as he absent-mindedly scrawled calculations on his office whiteboard, that the breakthrough came. "Holy shit," Elias breathed, stepping back to look at the equation he'd just written. The numbers and symbols seemed to dance before his eyes, rearranging themselves into a pattern he'd never seen before. This can't be right. He frantically input the equation into his simulation software, his heart pounding as he waited for the results. When they appeared on his screen, Elias felt the world tilt on its axis. "I've done it," he whispered, staring at the swirling vortex of energy displayed in the simulation. "A stable wormhole. It's actually possible." The implications were staggering. If his calculations were correct, Elias had just discovered the key to faster-than-light travel. It was the holy grail of astrophysics, a breakthrough that could revolutionize space exploration and change the course of human history. As the initial shock wore off, a nagging thought wormed its way into Elias's mind. The pulsing rhythm of Zara X's wrist device, it was eerily similar to the energy fluctuations in his simulated wormhole. Could it be mere coincidence, or was there a connection? Before he could ponder this further, a knock at his office door jolted him back to reality. Dr. Samantha Wu poked her head in, her expression a mix of excitement and concern. "Elias, you need to see this," she said, holding up her tablet. "It's about extra clean." Elias felt a flutter of anticipation in his stomach as he took the tablet from Samantha. The screen displayed a news article with a bold headline: "Extra clean expansion raises concerns. Alien agenda questioned." As he skimmed the article, key phrases jumped out at him. Unprecedented access to homes and businesses, potential security risks, unverified alien technology. They're saying extra clean might be a front for some kind of alien surveillance operation, Samantha explained, her voice hushed despite them being alone in the office. There are rumors of strange energy readings, unauthorized data transmissions. Elias felt a chill run down his spine. He thought of Zara X, of the odd device on her wrist, of the way she had evaded his questions about it. Could she be involved in something sinister? "Thanks, Sam," he said, handing the tablet back to her. "I'll look into it more later. Right now, I need to show you something." As Elias explained his wormhole breakthrough to an increasingly awestruck Samantha, part of his mind was already formulating a plan. He needed to talk to Zara X to get answers about her technology and its possible connection to his discovery. The next time Zara X arrived at his apartment, Elias was ready. He had prepared a series of questions and even rigged up some makeshift sensors to try and get readings on her cleaning equipment. But as soon as Zara X entered, Elias knew something was wrong. Her usual fluid grace was replaced by a tense rigidity, and her starry eyes darted around the room as if searching for hidden threats. "Zara X, Elias asked, concern overriding his planned interrogation. "Is everything all right?" She turned to him, and for a moment, her opalescent facade seemed to flicker, revealing a depth of emotion Elias hadn't thought possible in her alien features. "Elias," she said, her melodic voice tight with urgency. "I should not be here. It is not safe, for either of us." Before Elias could respond, a high-pitched whine filled the air. Zara X's wrist device was glowing brightly now, pulsing with an intensity that made Elias's eyes water. "They have found me," Zara X said, her voice filled with a mixture of fear and resignation. "I am sorry, Elias. I never meant for you to become involved in this." "Involved in what?" Elias demanded, his mind reeling. "Zara X, what's going on?" But before she could answer, the world around them seemed to bend and warp. The air shimmered like a heat mirage, and Elias felt a sensation like he was being stretched and compressed at the same time. When the feeling passed, Elias found himself no longer standing in his apartment. Instead, he and Zara X were in what appeared to be the control room of a spaceship. Sleek, organic-looking consoles pulsed with alien energy, and through a large view screen, Elias could see the Earth spinning slowly below them. By the cosmic void, Zara X breathed, her starry eyes wide with shock. How did you? This is impossible. Elias stared at his hands, then at the impossible view before him. I think I just created a wormhole, he said, his voice faint with disbelief. Zara X's expression shifted from shock to something like awe. You have mastered fold space technology. But how? Your species is centuries away from such advancements. Before Elias could attempt to explain his accidental breakthrough, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. Red lights pulsed in time with the wailing sirens, and alien text scrolled rapidly across the view screens. They are coming, Zara X said, her voice grim. She turned to Elias, her starry eyes boring into him with an intensity that made him shiver. Elias, I'm not who you think I am. Extra clean is not what you think it is. And now, because of me, you are in terrible danger. Elias's mind was spinning, trying to process the rapid-fire revelations. Who's coming? What danger? Zara X, please, just tell me what's going on. Zara X moved to one of the ship's consoles, her fingers dancing over the controls with practiced ease. There is no time for a full explanation now. Know this. I am not a maid, but a spy. My people, the Arcari, sent me to Earth to gather intelligence on your species' technological advancements. She paused, turning back to Elias with an expression of what seemed like regret. We believed your kind to be primitive, harmless. But you, Elias, you have proven us wrong in the most spectacular way. The ship shuddered, and new alerts flashed across the screens. The Arcarian forces are attempting to lock onto our position, Zara X said, her voice tense. Elias, I need your help. Your accidental wormhole brought us here, but I don't know how to recreate it. If we stay, we will be captured, and your discovery will fall into the hands of those who would use it for terrible purposes. Elias felt as though he were in a dream, or perhaps a nightmare. Less than an hour ago, his biggest concern had been confronting his alien maid about some suspicious technology. Now he was on a spaceship, running from alien enforcers, with the fate of his groundbreaking discovery hanging in the balance. But as he looked at Zara X, seeing the genuine fear and regret in her starry eyes, Elias felt a surge of determination. This was the adventure he'd always dreamed of, the chance to push the boundaries of human knowledge and explore the cosmos. And more than that, it was a chance to help someone, even if that someone was an alien spy who had been lying to him from the start. Okay, he said, stepping up to the console beside Zara X. I'm not sure how I did it before, but I'll try to recreate the wormhole. Just tell me what to do. As Elias and Zara X worked frantically to escape their pursuers, neither of them realized that this was only the beginning of a journey that would take them across the galaxy, challenge everything they thought they knew, and ultimately decide the fate of both their species. The ship rocked with another impact, and Elias knew they were running out of time. As his fingers flew over the alien controls, guided by Zara X's instructions and his own intuition, he silently prayed that his accidental discovery would work one more time. Little did he know, the wormhole he was about to create would not only save their lives, but also set in motion a chain of events that would change the course of galactic history forever. The vastness of space stretched out before them, an endless canvas of stars and swirling nebulae. Dr. Elias Thornton stood transfixed at the viewport of the alien ship, his mind still reeling from the events of the past few hours. Beside him, Zara X worked tirelessly at the ship's controls, her opalescent skin reflecting the kaleidoscope of colors from the ship's holographic displays. I still can't believe it worked, Elias murmured, more to himself than to Zara X. The memory of the wormhole's creation was a blur of adrenaline and instinct, his hands moving across alien technology as if guided by some unseen force. Zara X's starry eyes flickered towards him, a mix of admiration and concern in their depths. Your species continues to surprise me, Elias. The ability to manipulate fold space on instinct alone, it is unprecedented. Elias turned from the viewport, facing his alien companion. The initial shock of their escape was wearing off, replaced by a growing need for answers. All right, Zara X, we're safe for now. I think it's time you told me exactly what's going on. Who are you really, and what do the Arkari want with Earth? Zara X's movements stilled, and for a moment, Elias thought she might try to evade his questions again. But then she sighed, a surprisingly human gesture from her alien form. You are right, you deserve the truth. She gestured to a pair of chairs that seemed to grow organically from the ship's floor. Please sit. This may take some time to explain. As they settled into the strangely comfortable alien chairs, Zara X began her tale. The Arkari are an ancient species, Elias. We have traversed the stars for millions of years, watching countless civilizations rise and fall. Long ago, we appointed ourselves as guardians of the galaxy, protecting younger species from threats they could not yet comprehend. Her starry eyes seemed to dim as she continued. But power, even power wielded with the best intentions, can corrupt. Over time, the Arkari became not guardians, but conquerors. We no longer protect. We control, we exploit, we dominate. Elias felt a chill run down his spine. And Earth, where do we fit into this? Your planet was meant to be our next acquisition, Zara X said, her voice heavy with regret. Extra clean was a front, a way to gather intelligence and prepare for a full-scale invasion. But she trailed off, her gaze meeting Elias's. I began to question our methods, our motivations. The more I learned about humans, about you, Elias, the more I realized we were making a terrible mistake. Elias's mind raced, trying to process the implications of Zara X's revelation. So you're what? A defector? Zara X nodded. I was attempting to gather evidence of the Arkari's true intentions, to expose their plans to the galactic community. But I was discovered. If not for your miraculous wormhole, I would have been captured, and Earth's fate would have been sealed. A heavy silence fell between them as Elias absorbed this information. The fate of his entire planet now rested on their shoulders. It was almost too much to comprehend. Suddenly, an alarm blared through the ship, startling them both. Zara X leaped to her feet, rushing to the control panel. Cosmic void, she cursed, her fingers flying over the holographic displays. They found us. Elias joined her at the controls, his eyes widening at the sight on the view screen. A massive ship, easily 100 times the size of their own, was materializing out of what looked like a tear in space itself. An Arkari battlecruiser, Zara X explained, her voice tight with fear. They must have tracked the energy signature from your wormhole. Elias felt panic rising in his chest, but he forced it down. This was no time to lose his head. Okay, what are our options? Can we outrun them? Zara X shook her head. Their technology far surpasses this scout ship. Our only hope is to create another wormhole. But I don't know how I did it the first time. Elias protested. It was an accident, a fluke. Zara X turned to him, her starry eyes blazing with intensity that took his breath away. Elias, listen to me. What you did was not a fluke. Somehow, your mind has grasped the fundamental principles of fold space manipulation. You need to focus, to reach for that understanding again. The ship shuddered as the battlecruiser locked onto them with a tractor beam. Alarms blared louder, and Elias could feel the vibration of the larger ship's engines through the floor. Elias, please, Zara X pleaded. You must try. Taking a deep breath, Elias placed his hands on the control panel. He closed his eyes, trying to recapture the feeling he had in that moment of desperation back in his apartment. The equations he'd discovered, the simulations he'd run, the pulsing rhythm of Zara X's device, all of it swirled in his mind, coalescing into a pattern that seemed to exist just beyond his conscious grasp. Come on, he muttered, sweat beading on his forehead. Come on. Just as he felt the pattern slipping away, Zara X's hand covered his own. The touch sent a jolt through him, not just physical but something deeper, as if their minds were suddenly in sync. In that moment, Elias saw it, the underlying structure of space-time, the hidden pathways that connected distant points in the cosmos. With a cry of triumph, Elias's fingers danced across the controls. Energy surged through the ship, and the view screen filled with the swirling vortex of a newborn wormhole. "You did it," Zara X exclaimed, her voice filled with awe and relief. But their victory was short-lived. As the ship plunged into the wormhole, alarms blared once more. "The battlecruiser," Zara X said, her eyes wide with fear. "They're following us through." The wormhole's swirling energy engulfed them, and Elias felt that strange stretching sensation once more. But this time, something was different. The energy patterns were becoming unstable, fluctuating wildly. "Zara X," Elias shouted over the rising whine of the ship's engines. "Something's wrong. The wormhole is collapsing." Zara X's fingers flew over the controls, but it was clear she was fighting a losing battle. "The battlecruiser's mass is too great," she explained, her voice strained. "It's destabilizing the wormhole. We're going to be torn apart." In that moment of crisis, Elias felt a strange calm settle over him. The patterns of energy, the fluctuations of space-time, suddenly, it all made sense. Without fully understanding how he knew what to do, Elias reached for the controls. "Trust me," he said to Zara X, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. As Zara X watched in amazement, Elias manipulated the ship's systems in ways she had never seen before. The wormhole's energy began to shift, coalescing around their smaller vessel while pushing back against the massive battlecruiser. "Elias," Zara X breathed, "what are you doing?" "Saving our lives," Elias replied through gritted teeth, his entire being focused on maintaining the delicate balance of energies. With a final surge of power, their ship broke free of the collapsing wormhole, shooting out into unknown space. Behind them, the wormhole imploded, taking the Arcari battlecruiser with it in a spectacular burst of light and energy. As silence fell over the ship, Elias slumped in his chair, exhausted but exhilarated. Zara X stared at him, her starry eyes wide with wonder. "How?" she asked simply. Elias shook his head, still trying to process what he'd done. "I'm not sure. It was like I could see the underlying structure of space-time itself, like I knew exactly how to manipulate it." Zara X was quiet for a moment, her expression thoughtful. "Elias," she said finally, "I believe you may have unlocked abilities that even the Arcari do not possess. Your intuitive understanding of fold space, it could change everything." As the implications of her words sank in, Elias gazed out at the unfamiliar stars surrounding them. They were lost, hunted, with the fate of Earth hanging in the balance. But they were alive, and they had hope. "So," Elias said, turning back to Zara X with a tentative smile, "where do we go from here?" Zara X's lips curved in a smile of her own, an expression that transformed her alien features into something achingly beautiful. "Forward, Elias. Always forward. We have a galaxy to save, after all." As their ship drifted in the vast unknown, Elias felt a surge of excitement. This was just the beginning of their adventure, and he couldn't wait to see what the universe had in store for them next. The alien ship hummed softly as it drifted through the star-studded void, its two occupants locked in intense discussion. Dr. Elias Thornton leaned over a holographic display, his brow furrowed in concentration as he manipulated complex equations with a gesture of his hand. Beside him, Zara X watched with a mixture of awe and concern, her starry eyes flickering between Elias and the swirling data before them. "If my calculations are correct," Elias said, his voice tight with excitement, "we should be able to create a stable wormhole back to Earth. We can warn them about the Arcari threat." Zara X's opalescent skin shimmered with agitation. "Elias, I understand your desire to protect your home, but returning to Earth now would be incredibly dangerous. The Arcari will be watching for any fold space activity near your planet." Elias ran a hand through his disheveled hair, frustration evident in his voice. "We can't just abandon Earth to its fate, Zara X. There has to be a way to get a warning to them." Before Zara X could respond, an alarm blared through the ship. Both of them rushed to the main console, where a red warning light pulsed ominously. "What is it?" Elias asked, his heart racing. Zara X's fingers danced over the controls, her expression grim. A distress signal from Earth. With a flick of her wrist, she brought up a holographic display of Earth. Elias gasped as he saw a fleet of massive ships surrounding his home planet, their sleek designs unmistakably alien. "The invasion," Zara X whispered. "It's already begun." Elias felt as if the floor had dropped out from beneath him. "No," he breathed. "We have to do something." Zara X turned to him, her starry eyes filled with determination. "We will, Elias, but we can't face an entire invasion fleet alone. We need allies, resources." "Where are we going to find allies against the Arcari?" Elias demanded. A sly smile spread across Zara X's alien features. "I might know a place. There's a hidden outpost on the edge of Arcari space, a haven for refugees and rebels. If we can reach it, we might be able to gather enough support to make a difference." Elias nodded, his initial panic giving way to resolve. "All right, how do we get there?" "That," Zara X said, gesturing to the ship's controls, "is where your unique talents come in. The outpost is protected by a series of fold space barriers. Only someone with your intuitive understanding of wormhole mechanics could navigate them safely." Taking a deep breath, Elias placed his hands on the control panel. As he had done before, he reached out with his mind, feeling for the subtle patterns of space-time. This time, however, the process felt smoother, more natural. It was as if his brain had rewired itself to perceive this new aspect of reality. "I think I've got it," he said, his eyes closed in concentration. Initiating fold space jump in 3, 2, 1. The familiar sensation of stretching and compressing washed over them as the ship plunged into the wormhole. When they emerged, Elias opened his eyes to find a breathtaking sight before them. A massive space station hung suspended in the void, its design unlike anything Elias had ever seen. It seemed to be made of intertwining strands of light and shadow, constantly shifting and reforming. Ships of various sizes and designs fitted around it like fireflies. "Welcome," Zara X said, a note of reverence in her voice, "to Haven's Edge." As they approached the station, a voice crackled over the ship's communications system. The language was unlike anything Elias had ever heard, a series of melodic tones and clicks. Zara X responded in kind, her voice taking on a musical quality that sent shivers down Elias's spine. After a brief exchange, she turned to him with a grim expression. "We've been granted permission to dock, but," she hesitated, "they're wary of outsiders, especially humans. The Arcari have spread propaganda about your species being violent and unpredictable. We'll need to tread carefully." As their ship was guided into a docking bay, Elias felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. He was about to step into a world beyond his wildest dreams, but the fate of Earth hung heavy on his shoulders. The airlock hissed open, revealing a bustling corridor filled with the most diverse array of alien life forms Elias had ever imagined. Creatures of all shapes, sizes, and colors moved about their business, some floating, others slithering, a few even facing in and out of visibility. "Stay close to me," Zara X murmured, taking Elias's hand. The touch of her alien skin sent a jolt through him, a reminder of the strange connection they had formed. As they made their way through the station, Elias couldn't help but marvel at the advanced technologies surrounding them. Holographic displays floated in mid-air, creatures communicated via what seemed to be telepathy, and in one corner, he saw a group of aliens manipulating gravity itself as a form of artistic expression. Their journey ended at a large, ornate door. Zara X took a deep breath, squeezing Elias's hand reassuringly. "The Council of Outcasts," she explained. "They govern Haven's Edge. If anyone can help us save Earth, it's them." The doors swung open silently, revealing a circular chamber. Seated around its perimeter were 7 beings, each more alien and awe-inspiring than the last. In the center of the room, a holographic representation of Earth rotated slowly, the Arcari invasion fleet clearly visible. One of the council members, a being that seemed to be made of living crystals, spoke. Its voice resonated through the chamber, automatically translating in Elias's mind. Zara X, former scout of the Archive, you bring a human before us in our time of crisis. Explain yourself. Zara X stepped forward, her posture confident despite the palpable tension in the room. Honored Council, I come seeking your aid. The Archive have begun their invasion of Earth, but this human, Dr. Elias Thornton, may hold the key to stopping them. A murmur rippled through the council. Another member, this one a swirling mass of gas contained within a translucent membrane, spoke. How can one human hope to stand against the might of the Archive fleet? This was it, Elias realized. This was his moment to prove himself, to show that humanity was worth saving. Taking a deep breath, he stepped forward. Respected Council, he began, surprised at the steadiness of his voice. I've discovered a way to manipulate fold space that even the Archive haven't mastered. With your help, I believe we can use this knowledge to stop the invasion and protect not just Earth, but all worlds threatened by Archive expansion. To demonstrate, Elias reached out with his mind, focusing on the holographic representation of Earth. To the astonishment of all present, a miniature wormhole materialized in the display, swirling with energy. The council chamber erupted in a cacophony of alien voices. Some expressed awe, others skepticism, and a few outright hostility. But Elias stood his ground, the determination in his eyes matching the starlight in Zara X's gaze. Finally, the crystalline being raised a faceted appendage, silencing the chamber. Dr. Thornton, it said, its tone unreadable. Your abilities are indeed remarkable, but the Archive are not easily defeated. What makes you think you can succeed where others have failed for millennia? Elias glanced at Zara X, drawing strength from her presence. Then he turned back to the council, his voice ringing with conviction. Because we have something the Archive don't, he said. We have diversity. Look around this room. Each of you brings unique perspectives, abilities, and technologies. United, we represent the best the galaxy has to offer. The Archive's strength comes from conformity and control. Our strength comes from our differences. He gestured to the holographic Earth, his eyes blazing with passion. My people may be young in galactic terms, but we faced countless challenges and overcome them through innovation, cooperation, and sheer determination. Give us a chance to prove ourselves. Together, we can show the Archive that the true power of the universe lies not in domination, but in collaboration. As Elias finished speaking, a hush fell over the chamber. The council members exchanged glances, communicating in ways Elias couldn't comprehend. Finally, the crystalline being spoke again. Dr. Thornton, your words are compelling. Your abilities even more so. We will deliberate on your proposal. In the meantime, you and Zara X will be given quarters here on Haven's Edge. We advise you to prepare yourselves. If we agree to aid you, the path ahead will be fraught with danger. As they were led from the chamber, Elias felt a mixture of hope and trepidation. They had a chance, but the real challenge was just beginning. The fate of Earth, and perhaps the entire galaxy, now rested on his shoulders. Zara X placed a comforting hand on his arm. You did well, Elias, she said softly. Whatever comes next, know that I stand with you. Elias covered her hand with his own, marveling at how natural it felt despite their alien differences. Together then, he said with a smile, let's save the galaxy. As they walked through the wondrous halls of Haven's Edge, Elias knew that their greatest adventure was just beginning. The Archive were formidable foes, but with his newfound abilities, Zara X's knowledge, and the potential support of the galactic outcasts, they had a fighting chance. The battle for Earth and the future of the galaxy was about to begin. The corridors of Haven's Edge hummed with nervous energy as Dr. Elias Thornton and Zara X made their way to the station's central command hub. It had been 3 days since their impassioned plea to the Council of Outcasts, 3 days of anxious waiting and intense preparation. As they walked, Elias marveled at how quickly he'd adapted to his alien surroundings. The diverse array of extraterrestrial life forms no longer shocked him, and he found himself fascinated by the incredible technologies on display at every turn. "You're taking to this remarkably well," Zara X commented, her starry eyes twinkling with amusement. "Most humans would be overwhelmed." Elias chuckled. "Oh, believe me, I'm overwhelmed. But there's no time for culture shock when the fate of Earth is at stake." They arrived at the command hub, a vast chamber dominated by a massive holographic display of the galaxy. The Council of Outcasts was already assembled, that alien forms a testament to the diversity of life in the universe. The crystalline being that seemed to lead the council addressed them. "Dr. Thornton, Zara X, we have reached a decision. We will aid you in your fight against the Arcari, but our resources are limited. We can offer you a small fleet and access to our technology, but the bulk of the mission will fall to you." Elias nodded, a mix of relief and apprehension washing over him. "Thank you, honored council. We won't let you down." A new voice chimed in, gravelly and deep. "You'd better not, human." Elias turned to see a hulking alien step forward. Its body seemed to be made of living stone, craggy and imposing. "This is Korth," Zara X whispered. "He's a Petrosian and one of the best tactical minds in the galaxy." Korth fixed Elias with a stare from his glowing amber eyes. "I'll be leading the fleet that accompanies you. I hope your abilities are as impressive as the Council claims, because we're about to dive into the heart of Arcari space." As the meeting progressed, a plan began to take shape. They would use Elias' unique fold space abilities to slip past Arcari defenses, gathering intelligence and sabotaging key installations. The ultimate goal was to find a way to neutralize the Arcari fleet threatening Earth without resorting to full-scale war. Hours later, as they prepared to board their ship, Elias felt the weight of responsibility settling heavily on his shoulders. Zara X must have sensed his unease, because she placed a comforting hand on his arm. "Are you ready for this?" she asked softly. Elias took a deep breath, covering her hand with his own. "As ready as I'll ever be. Let's go save the galaxy." Their small fleet departed Haven's Edge, slipping into fold space with a flash of energy. Elias stood at the helm, his hands hovering over the controls as he guided them through the twisting corridors of subspace. Over the next few weeks, Elias and Zara X found themselves on a whirlwind tour of the galaxy's hidden corners. They infiltrated Arcari outposts, narrowly escaped detection more times than they could count, and slowly began to unravel the full extent of the Arcari's plans. During a particularly tense moment, hiding in an asteroid field as an Arcari patrol passed by, Elias turned to Zara X with a wry smile. "You know, when I dreamed of exploring the cosmos, I didn't exactly picture myself as an intergalactic spy." Zara X's laughter was like tinkling crystals. "Life has a way of exceeding our expectations, doesn't it? When I was assigned to Earth, I never imagined I'd end up a fugitive, fighting alongside a human to save the galaxy." As they continued their mission, Elias and Zara X grew closer. The barriers between their species seemed to fade away as they shared moments of danger, triumph, and quiet reflection. Elias found himself captivated by Zara X's intelligence and grace, while she marveled at his quick thinking and unwavering determination. One night, as they sat in the ship's observation deck, watching the swirling colors of a nebula, Zara X turned to Elias with a serious expression. "Elias, there's something I need to tell you," she said, her starry eyes flickering with emotion. "The reason I defected from the Arcari, it wasn't just because I disagreed with their methods. It was because of you." Elias felt his heart skip a beat. "Me? But we barely met when you decided to turn against them." Zara X shook her head. "Not you specifically, but humans. As I studied your species, I saw something in you that the Arcari had lost long ago. A spark of creativity, of passion, of the sheer joy of discovery. You faced the unknown not with fear, but with wonder." She reached out, her opalescent fingers intertwining with his. You've shown me that there's more to existence than control and order. You've taught me to see the beauty in chaos, the potential in diversity. And I think I'm falling in love with you, Elias Thornton." The admission hung in the air between them, a fragile thing filled with hope and fear. Elias felt as if the universe itself had paused, waiting for his response. Slowly he leaned forward, his forehead touching hers in an intimate gesture. "Zara X," he whispered, "I think I'm falling in love with you too." Their lips met in a kiss that seemed to transcend species, a connection that bridged the vast gulf of space and evolution that separated them. In that moment, Elias knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. But their moment of bliss was short-lived. An alarm blared through the ship, startling them apart. Korg's gravelly voice came over the intercom. "Thornton, Zara X, get to the bridge now. We've got a problem." They rushed to the command center, where a grim-faced Korg was studying a holographic display. "We've detected a massive energy surge in Arcari space," he rumbled. "Whatever they're planning, it's big." Elias leaned in, his scientific mind already analyzing the data. "This output, it's consistent with a large-scale fold space event, but the scale is enormous, beyond anything we've seen before." Zara X's eyes widened in horror. "By the cosmic void," she breathed. "They're not just planning to invade Earth. They're going to move it." "Move it?" Elias asked, incredulous. "Move Earth where?" "To Arcari space," Zara X explained, her voice tight with urgency. "They're going to tear your entire planet out of its orbit and relocate it to a system under their complete control. The environmental devastation alone would kill billions." Elias felt as if the floor had dropped out from under him. The scope of the Arcari's plan was beyond anything he had imagined. "How long do we have?" Korg's stony face was grim. "Based on these readings, less than 48 hours. A heavy silence fell over the bridge. The enormity of their task seemed insurmountable. But as Elias looked around at his alien companions, at Zara X, whose love had transcended the boundaries of species, he felt a surge of determination. "Then we have 48 hours to pull off the greatest heist in galactic history," he said, his voice steady with resolve. "We're going to steal their fold space technology and use it to save Earth." Korg let out a rumbling laugh. "You're either a genius or a madman, Thornton, possibly both." Zara X squeezed Elias's hand, her starry eyes shining with a mixture of fear and admiration. "It's insane," she said, "but it just might work." As the ship's engines rolled to life, setting a course for the heart of Arcari space, Elias knew that they were hurtling towards their final confrontation. The next 48 hours would determine not just the fate of Earth, but the future of the entire galaxy. With Zara X by his side and a crew of galactic outcasts at his back, Elias prepared to face the greatest challenge of his life. The final battle was about to begin, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Little did they know, the true nature of the Arcari's plan, and the shocking secret at the heart of the conflict, was beyond anything they could have imagined. As they raced against time, the fugitives from Earth were about to uncover a truth that would shake the foundations of the cosmos itself. The Arcari homeworld loomed large in the viewscreen, a planet of gleaming metal and pulsing energy fields. Dr. Elias Thornton stood on the bridge of their stolen ship, his heart racing with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. Beside him, Zara X's opalescent skin shimmered with tension, her starry eyes fixed on the world she once called home. "I never thought I'd see this place again," she murmured, her voice tinged with a complex mix of emotions. Elias reached out, taking her hand in his. "We'll make it through this," he said, trying to infuse his voice with a confidence he didn't entirely feel. "Together." Korg's gravelly voice cut through the moment. Enough with the sentimentality, the Petrosian rumbled. "We've got a planet to save and less than 24 hours to do it." Their plan was audacious, bordering on suicidal. While Korg and the rest of their Ragtag fleet created a diversion, Elias and Zara X would infiltrate the Arcari's central command structure. Their goal? to sabotage the massive fold space device the Arcari planned to use on Earth. As they prepared to depart, Elias felt a moment of doubt. "Zara X," he said softly, "are you sure about this? We're about to betray your people, your world." Zara X's expression was resolute. "The Arcari betrayed themselves long ago, Elias. They've forgotten what it means to explore, to grow, to love. What we're doing isn't just for Earth, it's for the Arcari too. They need to be stopped for everyone's sake." With a final nod to Korg, Elias and Zara X boarded a small shuttle. As they descended towards the planet's surface, the sky erupted with energy blasts and explosions. Korg's diversion was underway. Using Zara X's knowledge and Elias's newfound abilities, they managed to slip past the planet's defenses. They found themselves in a vast, gleaming metropolis, its architecture a blend of organic forms and advanced technology that took Elias's breath away. "The central nexus is this way," Zara X whispered, guiding them through shadowy alleyways and hidden passages. As they neared their destination, an alarm blared through the city. "Intruder alert," a melodious voice announced in the Arcari language. "All citizens report any sightings of the human fugitive and the traitor Zara X." "So much for the element of surprise," Elias muttered as they broke into a run. They burst into the central nexus, a colossal chamber dominated by a pulsing orb of energy, the heart of the Arcari's fold space technology. But they weren't alone. "Welcome home, Zara X," a voice echoed through the chamber. A tall, regal Arcari stepped into view, his body seeming to shimmer with barely contained energy. "And Dr. Thornton, how kind of you to deliver yourself to us." "High Commander Vex," Zara X gasped, instinctively stepping in front of Elias. Vex's laugh was like tinkling glass. "Did you really think we wouldn't anticipate your little raid? We've been tracking you across the galaxy, my dear. Your human pet's fold space jumps aren't as untraceable as you believed." Elias's mind raced, trying to find a way out of this trap. But before he could act, Vex raised a hand, and both he and Zara X found themselves paralyzed by an invisible force. "Now," Vex said, gliding towards them, "let me show you the true scope of our plans." With a gesture, he activated a holographic display. Elias watched in horror as a simulation played out before them. The Earth, torn from its orbit, was transported across the galaxy. But it wasn't just deposited in Arcari space, it was merged with the Arcari homeworld, the two planets fusing in a cataclysmic joining. "Behold," Vex proclaimed, his voice filled with fervor, "the salvation of both our species." Salvation. Elias managed to choke out. This would kill billions. Vex waved a dismissive hand. "A necessary sacrifice. You see, Dr. Thornton, the Arcari are dying. Our obsession with control, with perfection, has led us to an evolutionary dead end. We need the chaos, the vibrant diversity of humanity to survive." "And you think this forced fusion is the answer?" Zara X asked, horror evident in her voice. "It is the only answer," Vex replied. "Together, our species will create a new race, one that combines Arcari wisdom with human creativity. We will be unstoppable." As Vex monologued, Elias felt something stirring within him. The familiar patterns of fold space energy surrounded them, and he realized the paralysis field holding them was based on the same principles as the technology he'd come to understand. Concentrating with all his might, Elias reached out with his mind, feeling for the weaknesses in the energy field. There, a fluctuation, a point where the patterns didn't quite align. With a burst of mental effort, Elias shattered the paralysis field. In the same moment, he grabbed Zara X and dove for cover as Vex unleashed a blast of energy that scorched the floor where they had been standing. "Impossible," Vex roared, his calm demeanor cracking. Elias and Zara X scrambled behind a console, energy blasts exploding around them. "Any ideas?" Elias asked, his voice tight with tension. Zara X's eyes darted around the room, then widened with realization. "The fold space core," she said, pointing to the pulsing orb. "If we can overload it, it should create a localized implosion. It would destroy the Arcari's plans without harming the rest of the planet." "Great," Elias replied, ducking as another blast sailed over their heads. "How do we do that?" "We need to invert the energy flow," Zora X explained quickly. "But it would require precise manipulation of the fold space fields. I don't know if even I could." "We'll do it together," Elias interrupted, taking her hand. "Like before on the ship. Our minds in sync." Zara X nodded, a small smile playing on her lips despite the dire situation. "Together, then." They stood as one, their joined hands raised towards the fold space core. Vex, seeing their intention, let out a roar of rage and unleashed a massive surge of energy towards them. But in that moment, something extraordinary happened. The bond between Elias and Zara X, human and Arcari, flared to life. Their minds merged, human intuition blending seamlessly with Arcari knowledge. The energy Vex had unleashed twisted in midair, caught in the complex fold space manipulations Elias and Zara X were weaving. It flowed into the core, which began to pulse erratically. "No," Vex cried, realizing too late what was happening. "You'll doom us all." "Not doom," Elias said, his voice strained with effort. "Rebirth." With a final surge of will, Elias and Zara X completed their work. The fold space core imploded, collapsing in on itself in a dazzling display of light and energy. But instead of destruction, the energy spread outward in a gentle wave, washing over the entire planet. As the light faded, Elias and Zara X found themselves standing in a transformed chamber. The harsh metallic surfaces had softened, blending with organic forms. Outside, they could see the city changing, rigid structures giving way to a more harmonious blend of technology and nature. Vex stared at his hands in wonder, his body no longer shimmering with barely contained energy. What have you done?" he asked, his voice filled with awe rather than anger. Zara X stepped forward, her expression gentle. "We've given the Arcari a second chance," she said. "The wave has rewritten your genetic structure, undoing the damage of centuries of misguided evolution. You're free now, free to grow, to change, to live." As the implications of what had happened sank in, cheers began to erupt from outside. The Arcari was celebrating in the streets, reveling in their newfound freedom and potential. Elias's communicator crackled to life. "Thornton," Korg's voice boomed. "Whatever you did down there, it worked. The Arcari fleet is standing down. Earth is safe." Relief washed over Elias, and he pulled Zara X into a tight embrace. They had done it. They had saved not just Earth, but the Arcari as well. In the days that followed, a new era of cooperation dawned. The Arcari, humbled by their near brush with destruction and energized by their new potential, reached out to Earth not as conquerors, but as partners. Elias and Zara X found themselves at the center of it all, bridges between two worlds. As they stood on the balcony of the new Earth Arcari Cooperative Council building, looking out over a city where humans and Arcari worked side by side, Elias couldn't help but marvel at how far they'd come. "You know," he said, turning to Zara X with a smile, "when you showed up at my apartment as a maid, I never imagined we'd end up here." Zara X laughed, the sound like music to Elias's ears. "The universe is full of surprises, my love, and something tells me our greatest adventures are still to come." As they sealed that promise with a kiss, a shooting star streaked across the sky, a reminder of the vast, beautiful, mysterious cosmos that awaited them. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them as they had faced everything else, together, two species united, reaching for the stars. The end.